light. This room is like black when it's off. So anyway, let's get into it.
Okay.
All right.
Your topic.
Your
All
topic.
right.
You
All right. All right. So we're another episode in, and we're going to talk about album covers today. And let's start off with some album covers that you guys think are like legendary, classic, like ones that come to mind immediately, like ones that even growing up that were favorites of yours, or
Yeah, we can do that. They, I put some together that for my just personal history on it. I think one of my first memories, and I've mentioned it before, I think way back on the very first podcast, one of the things that got me in music is like the Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell album cover. When you have like this demon on a motorcycle coming out of fire and everything, it's all bright red, and it just like there's so much imagery on it, and it matched the album itself so well as well, especially the song Bat Out of Hell on there. Another one that I have going through all the records in there, I'm a huge Kiss fan, and this by far this is not their best album, like cover, but it stands out to me because it was my first one that I saw of Kiss, and I was like, oh, what is this? And that's Dynasty. And it's just very simply the four of them, their faces, four squares on the album, and then all four of their faces. That's it. But I was like, whoa, what is this? And I remember putting it on, and it was like, wow, okay, I'm liking that. Another one on my list, Alice Cooper's Greatest Hits, is a really cool album cover because it has like this old like Prohibition, Al Capone type feel to it, where they're all
I was
like,
trying to remember it.
Yeah, they're all dressed as
the
like
bar, right?
gangsters and shit. Yeah, they're in a bar. There's like
Yeah,
that old timey like moonshine running bootlegger car.
Yeah.
And it just like that one, even still to this day, I find myself looking in the background at it and just it's like a Where's Waldo thing. There's so many things in that cover and in the background that I just love on there.
It's funny. As soon as you said car, instantly ZZ Top Eliminator comes to my mind.
Yeah,
and it's like that's for me. I mean, there's a lot of different albums with car and everything else.
Yeah.
Right? But man, that album, the first time I saw that was like, wow, that thing's awesome.
And everybody knows that car, and like having that car in the music videos and stuff. They were really, really good at taking their album cover and blending that whole into like their identity as a band.
Yeah,
putting it in their music videos, showing up to shows in it, like live events. It was there. Like it was, like you knew that car, you knew it was ZZ Top, and you knew the songs, and they all went together. They did that fantastic. Another really awesome '80s metal band that started it for them, it's Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction.
Oh yeah,
that
I used to have that cross drawn on my binders in school.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every binder had that draw. Like
everybody did. In fact, doing my sleeve tattoo of all musicians like as skulls, that was very, very heavily on the almost get done list as going on my arm. And in the end, I just went with Slash by himself. But like that whole thing was on my short list of going on there. It's that cool and that iconic with it.
Yeah, I was a little bit different when it came to a lot of album covers. I don't know. I mean, like you probably haven't seen this, but way at the top there, I've got a sketch pad where I drew out an album cover, which I'll get to in a little bit.
Testament.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could already see the. I was like, oh yeah, it looks like a Testament cover. Yeah.
Yeah, Soul's Black.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And yes, I mean, I there were a few that were iconic pictures or picture art, stuff like that. But when it came right down to it, the biggest thing for me was actually probably their logos. I think I really latched onto the band logo more so than I did the cover art in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the probably one of the worst covers on the planet was Cinderella. Right, it's kind of like the Beatles' White Album because it was just all white, and it just had the Cinderella logo in like a purple, pink kind of fade. And but damn, I love that album. Was just amazing. I loved it, but it was just the most basic thing, and it was just their logo, and that was it.
Yeah. You mentioned Meatloaf. I've never been a Meatloaf fan, but that album cover was the reason I went and checked out. That's how I know I'm not a Meatloaf fan, because I saw the album cover and I was like, this looks pretty fucking cool. So I went and heard it. I was like, whatever.
Not even Bad Out of Hell? You don't even like that song?
That song's not bad. That's about it though.
Oh,
But I was
that
like,
sounds
man, this album.
fucking
I
awesome.
remember thinking this guy sucks for having such a cool album cover. And now that I'm older, I think I could appreciate Meatloaf a little bit more. Still not a fan, but I don't think it sucks like I used to think. Like,
Yeah.
back then. But
But I think
that album cover was
Yeah.
that's got to be up there though as one of the best album covers of all time though,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's on my list.
Yeah,
and it's one of
yeah.
those like imprint years too. I think
You
for me
just-
and that album too is I love the album.
But you look at the album cover, like at least for me, anyways, and you go into it and you're expecting something totally different. I'm expecting like some metal, like heavy, like if I knew nothing about it, right?
Yeah. Well, and the song "Bat Out of Hell" did like it was heavy at the start, and granted, it got a lot mellower throughout the album and stuff, and it
Yeah.
really showcased his voice and stuff. And it's not a metal album at all.
No, but it looked
But,
like you
yeah.
look at the cover and you get like this is gonna be some.
Yeah, but how do you have an album called "Bat Out of Hell" and not make it cool?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you kind of
Yeah.
have to have a cool
yeah,
album cover if you're gonna
Yeah.
call it "Bat Out of Hell."
yeah, and
Especially then.
that Alice
and
Cooper
and
great,
Back to Hell too.
Yeah,
yeah,
Those are both like very much intertwined.
and I
covers.
enjoyed both of them.
yeah. That Alice Cooper cover you mentioned, that cover. Every time I look at Cowboys from Hell cover, it reminds me of that Alice Cooper
little bit,
cover.
yeah.
Because that the same cut, like that brown bar
Yeah.
scene,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
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 And I
for
bet
sure.
you, like, you could almost take the Cowboys from Hell cover and like shrink it right down and
Yeah.
put it into
Yeah,
the Alice
yeah,
Cooper greatest hits
yeah,
thing.
exactly, yeah.
Like it could almost be like a little snapshot of that album cover.
Yeah.
I didn't even put those two together. But yeah, they definitely do.
Yeah, they do. And
So what's on your? You called this. So what's a couple of the ones?
I've always thought the heavy metal bands always have the best album covers. I've always thought, as far as when I was a kid growing up, I used to love comic books, and the art in the comic books was one of the main reasons why I used to love comic books as a kid. So, which is one thing I can appreciate with metal albums. Is
Their
the artwork and
yeah.
stuff. A lot of it could be like comic-y, kind of maybe some darker than others, but for sure.
Well, a lot of the comic book artists also did album covers. Like, Kiss
Yeah.
Destroyer is a great album
Yeah.
cover as well. And
Yeah.
it was like that guy's a cartoon guy.
Yeah.
Or a comic book guy, not a cartoon guy.
It's like we mentioned Surfing with the Alien earlier.
Yeah, Surfing with the Alien is another one on there too. There's this guy, Boris. Oh, fuck, I looked him up. Boris Vallejo.
I can't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
He was a D&D artist.
Yeah, so he did a lot of like
D&D.
Conan the Barbarian and stuff,
Yeah.
but he did a lot of metal albums, especially for like Uriah Heep, who like we'll talk later on about like good albums and bad bands, but like they have amazing album covers, but
Yeah.
fucking shit music.
That's
Yeah.
how you really feel.
Yeah. But as far as greatest album covers for like even for metal, for example, I think Sabbath's self-titled debut
Yeah.
is probably top 3 for me because it just suits everything there. Like that album cover, that's what you're going to hear when you press play is
Yeah.
the vibe of that album cover. It looks like a horror movie kind of
Yeah.
poster, right? Like, and you press play, and that opening song, which in my opinion is the greatest opening metal song ever to a heavy metal album, it just goes with the cover, the theme of the cover, like the whole, like it was. Just like,
Yeah, it definitely set a tone.
Sets
and
a tone,
vibe
right?
For,
Like-
for all of it. It's
yeah,
very
like
well
with
put
the ZZ
together.
Top one we were talking about with the car and stuff. You play that, the tone goes with like the hot rod,
Yeah.
girls' legs, hot rod.
Yeah, the songs all.
It goes, it
fit
matches.
Bag?
Yeah, right. So same with Sabbath. I kind of felt like their music on that album in particular just matched that album cover, and it was just like,
Yeah.
The Kill 'Em All album cover I thought is one of my favorites because it was so simple,
Yeah.
but it was so like you wanted to hear it. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, look at this, that bloody hammer! Like this
Well,
is gonna
yeah,
be
you get
like
the hammer
some
and the blood and everything, and the songs hit you the same way.
hit, and then you hit play because to me I always put that together like the album cover and what does it sound like when I first hit play? What is the first note I'm going to hear? The first everything. Does it like and Kill 'Em All? I find is the same thing as with that Sabbath album. It's like you hit play, like you listen to Hit the Lights,
Yeah.
and it goes with that cover.
Yeah,
like
it
it's
delivers
just
big time.
like yeah. Those two definitely come to mind for me. A lot of '80s thrash, I thought had some incredible album covers.
Yeah.
Those are back to like a lot of like comic book style
Yeah,
drawings on it, but
yeah,
also
yeah.
that like, you know, your Testament album too, of that
Yeah.
sort of like fantasy
Fantasy,
horror type things in there, and like the demons and skulls and all these different
Yeah.
things that come in. Like some of
Yeah.
the Slayer albums are like just holy shit, what am I looking at
the
here?
Slayer
Like,
albums
oh,
were among the best because
yeah,
you
Testament
knew.
was always good.
'Cause-
Testament always had good art.
Yeah, Testament definitely, and with
Practice What You Preach is a little bit basic, but it was still very good. I mean, it's kind of an initial go, and I mean, first album, what do you do, right? Like,
Yeah, it's true.
but I found like Megadeth, when I first saw a couple of their covers, I wasn't terribly interested, but they evolved over time and they got better and better. I mean, with Vic and everything else, and I mean, if we're gonna go with having your mascot, you can't ignore any of the Iron Maiden albums.
And I think that was a smart move, having something iconic on there. And like I was thinking of putting these, right? The bands that have these connections that go on with their album covers, like Megadeth and Iron Maiden, both come to mind with Vic and Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
You know how they're always on each album. So it's like being able to do that. It takes some thought process in there, and I don't know if it's somebody in the band that came up with that, or if it's somebody in their marketing teams that put those together. But it works out. I know when it comes to Slayer, like Kerry King is the final say on everything. Yeah. Like all artwork for everything, like it's Kerry's the guy. But I don't know if other
Slayer
bands have that.
always delivered with the artwork. You saw the artwork and it was always like, oh, nice. This is gonna piss off my parents. I need to buy it. Like this is.
But even they had a pretty good logo too, with their screaming eagle, Nazi eagle, whatever. I don't know if it's a Nazi eagle, but definitely a certain look to it.
So one thing that it's kind of funny because I mean, it's not necessarily part of the topic or anything else, but it is part of the topic. What's the number one thing that got kids to actually listen to music was the parental music rating.
Yes. Well, yeah, you saw that. It was like it just made you want the album. Like, I remember when that happened in the 80s
PMRC
and watching the thing. Yeah, the PMRC, and all the bands are like, "Fuck, we want that sticker." Like you put that sticker on our album, you just gave us another million sales. You know, like
they didn't really think that through very well.
No.
Like,
my mom bought me the Two Live Crew album, and because I couldn't, so she went down and she bought it for me, and we talked about it beforehand. She's like, "Why do you want this?" And it's like everything that the PMRC was trying to protect us against is like each household needs to make that decision. And like my mom sat down and we talked about it, so she kind of educated me a little bit on it and gave me a different point of view to think. And it was like, okay. But she was like, well, as long as you know what you're listening to and you know what's right and what's wrong and blah, 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 then, whatever, because it's just words. Yeah. And really, like, at that age, I wanted the Two Live Crew album just for the Dirty Nursery Rhymes. I wasn't listening to any of the other stuff. I didn't even know what the fuck that meant. But to hear Dirty Nursery Rhymes, I was like, this is funny.
So you're after that and Dice Clay.
Yeah, and same thing with Dice Clay at that time.
Yeah.
But even some other stuff, I was like, seeing that logo on Cyndi Lauper's album. Yeah. I was like, huh? I'm like 10 years old. I don't know why. And then I get older and I listen to the song She Bop, and it's like, oh, okay. That would make sense now that I'm a little bit older, but it was like, all right.
Yeah, you'd think that explicit lyrics is just dropping F-bombs.
Yeah, no. And I was like, I thought she did a very good job of like using double entendres in that song and masking it the way that she did. Mm-hmm. But then it's also, well, you guys are trying to protect us from the very thing that your dirty mind went to as well.
That's actually one thing I do appreciate about music back then was like in the 80s, 90s, it was less, served up on a silver platter and in your face. It was more subtle, alluding to stuff, a little bit of the double entendre type thing going on. Like Master of Puppets doesn't necessarily, sit there and goes directly into what's going on, but what's going on. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And the album cover's very representative of that. And that's one thing I think that Metallica was pretty good for was their album covers were, excluding the Black Album, they were all pretty representative of at least a song, right? Like Justice for All with Lady Justice. That was very representative.
But that whole album is very political, which that visual image is very political too. Yeah, they were good at it. Actually, Puppets is on my list of my top 5 as well.
Yeah.
And I went back and forth between Kill 'Em All too, but it's also like, well, Ride the Lightning was awesome too. But
Yeah.
for me, it was like Puppets was the one that just the crosses, the visual image on that really
Well, and it's
blew my mind away.
the puppets portion
Yeah.
of it, right?
Yeah.
And leading straight to the grave. And I mean, it says a lot. I mean, picture says 1,000 words, and that one basically sums up the whatever 300 words.
Yeah,
of the song.
Metallica had some great, like those early Metallica albums. I mean, one of the best logos of all time.
Yeah.
Plus the cover being good. Yeah, that's.
Well, and it's funny. So we might jump around a little bit on here, but in doing my research, one of the things I came up with for myself doing is, so we have a great cover, but a shitty album. And then we have a great album, but a shitty cover. And I have Metallica on both of those lists. So what is the album that has a great cover, but it's a shit album by Metallica?
That is a shit.
Well, I didn't really
Awesome cover,
I didn't
shit
particularly
fucking
care for
album.
Saint Anger, but
Saint Anger?
Saint Anger.
Yeah.
Just that fist, everything was awesome, but you listen to it, it was like, oof. Now go the
I
other
was
way.
trying to remember the Lulu album cover. I was like,
Yeah, but is it,
I can't remember what
that's a
that one
Lou
looks
Reed
like, but
album.
it can't be. Yeah.
Yeah. But then a great album with a shitty cover by Metallica.
Black Album.
Yeah, that's what I put as well.
yeah,
It's like-
consensus. Most people are like the "Don't Tread on Me" Snake is just like, is it representative of Metallica?
Yeah, that one doesn't fit in
Yeah.
anything of it. I think it was a pretty mediocre attempt at something. I think they didn't have an idea and were
Or,
like just,
or was it
or they
mediocre
let a
lazy?
fucking art department do it. Like they had an advertising company come up with it. It was
Well, who
Yeah.
did they have mix that one? Was that Bob Rock? Oh, who was that?
yeah, I think it was Bob. Yeah, it was Bob Rock.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because they got in with him for that album, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder if he had anything to do with that, because he was influencing a lot of stuff at that point in time.
Yeah, I don't know. But even if he did, like, what? Why? Like, why?
If they're trying to change an image, change this, change that, right? I mean, you look at Beatles; they had their White Album, and
That's on my list here too. Of great album and shit cover.
yeah,
Because it's
but-
such a good album, but it's just like you nothing. It's just white. And they're like,
I mean, it
"Look
is
how
called
awesome."
though. It is the White Album though. So is it really shitty if it's simple, and like?
But is the White Album the actual name of the album, or is that just what we call? We all
That's
call
what
it.
we call it.
We call the
It's
Black Album the
self-titled,
Black Album, but
but
it's
yeah.
titled Metallica.
Yeah.
self-titled.
Like
Yeah.
so.
But it's all black, and we call it the Black Album.
Well,
right?
that's right.
Yeah.
And everybody says the Beatles the White Album, and that's just because it is white.
Yeah.
But like, is that the name of the album? And like, really,
Yeah, that's
the Beatles
fair,
had some pretty cool album covers. They had some pretty lame ones too. But like,
Yeah.
I think that was the fucking worst.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
For me, like bands like, I think like old school metal, I think had great covers to begin with.
Yeah.
But now I think like for a long time now, it's death metal's had the best album covers.
Yeah.
As far as artwork, like
Well, and I think it's one of the few genres left now that is like actually putting out physical copies of stuff. So
Yeah.
much stuff is now just streamed and online, and
Yeah.
you know, iTunes and Spotify
Like-
and all that shit. They're not really
like those
like,
Cannibal
they're not
Corpse.
trying hard anymore.
Those Cannibal Corpse album covers are
Yeah,
amazing,
they're
and they're so over the
hilarious.
top,
Yeah.
like trying to like, you know, it's
and
funny
some
how
of the Anthrax ones where they're like they purposely tried to make it fucking bad.
yeah yeah
Like,
Yeah, you know, when speaking of bad ones, when I was going through and I was picking different ones, and I was just thinking, I was trying to think of which bands did I get into early, and which bands did I get into because of the cover, and which bands did I get into the music and not even know the cover. And
Yeah.
I think honestly, like Led Zeppelin, I got into the music without even ever knowing what the covers look like. Like I look at Zepp 4, for instance. I'm lost on that one. I don't know
yeah, it's
anything.
just a weird cover.
yeah.
It's just kind of like
And Led Zeppelin
meh.
3 is like this weird like 60s groove vibe to it too. And like if you were to look at just that album cover, you're expecting like 60s hippie pop type music, right? And then you put
Yeah.
it on and it's like, whoa, this is not that. It doesn't fit that cover at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, too, thinking back like the bands that I bought because of those covers, where a lot of the metal bands, like I have Venom and Saxon and Crocus, a lot of like the British new age of heavy metal, all those bands had awesome shit. But two that definitely stand out as well is like seeing the cover and like having to buy it and not knowing who they were beforehand was Dio's Holy Diver.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Which was amazing.
One, yeah.
And then that also introduced me to Dio, so it's like a fucking double win right there.
Yeah.
And Pantera's Vulgar Display of Power.
The fist.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
That was my introduction to I didn't know who Pantera was before seeing that album.
Yeah.
And I remember being at it was in probably a Sam the Record Man in Saskatoon when I was just a kid at the mall, and I stole it. And just seeing that and being like, something came over me. I was like, I have to have this. And it was like, in my brain, it was like, if fucking security tries to stop me, I'm going to punch him right in the face. And it was just like all this stuff and like all this internal like anger. And it was like, nobody's stopping me from having this. And I took it and I went home and I put it on and I was like, oh my fucking God, I need to punch somebody in the face. Like,
so the album basically represented your angsty teen. Because I mean, I remember you as an angsty teen, and you were definitely represented by that cover.
Punch anybody in the face.
I didn't punch. Wait, how hard can I roll my eyes? If I roll hard enough, do I actually see the inside of my brain? Yeah. No, you never punched anybody. Sorry.
Yeah, those for me. The first White Zombie album was one that I bought without knowing anything. The Los Exorcisto, again, going back to the comic book art shit.
That horror theme.
I've always loved the horror theme because I've always loved horror movies from a young age, and like the comic horror thing. And I was like, this band just came along, and I was like, what is this? These guys look, I don't know what they sound like, but they look right up my alley. And you kind of saw a picture of the band, and it was like they look kind of like that industrial kind of groove metal type. I was like, I gotta check this out. And then I look in the back, and there's a song featuring Iggy Pop, so I'm sold. I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. So went home, played it, and I was like, holy shit, these guys are fucking awesome.
Is Thunder Kiss on that one?
Yeah. So and that was the beginning of me being a fan of theirs, was just from that album cover. Another one that comes to mind was the Ugly Kid Joe album cover with the Statue of Liberty. What album was that? Was that America's Least Wanted?
America's Least Wanted, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it was about that album cover, but I was working at a music store when I came across. I was putting away cassettes, and I saw that, and I was like, oh, you just don't know. You just know, like something just gets your attention. It's like, this looks like it has potential, whatever, and always. Well,
we have to reiterate too that like we're sitting here doing this podcast. It's going to be on the internet, and we have all this information at Colin's fingertips. He can do whatever he wants. But working at the store, opening a box and seeing the cover, that is how we found it. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have necessarily radio telling us what was on the cover and stuff. And radio probably wasn't playing Ugly Kid Joe at that time. They definitely weren't playing Venom and Crocus and shit. Like, there's so many of these things that there was no way to do it. So if you wanted somebody to buy your shit, you had to entice them with a visual because there was no other auditory. Is that the word? Audio? Audio is not a word. No other way to get it in your fucking ear hole without a picture.
Yeah.
You know,
So it's like what I was remember I was telling you, we were talking about this like a while back. Why I was telling Anna, I was like, I think the reason why so many people are tolerant of shitty music, it's because it's being hand-fed to them so much.
Yeah, because they don't have a choice.
You don't have to go to the store. You don't have like a certain amount of money. Okay, I can only buy one album this week. So I have to nail this. I can't just, it's got to be, you put the thought and the work into like hearing certain songs and reading the reviews and shit. Nowadays, it's on Spotify. You just play it, whatever. It's okay, and you never hear it again.
And it's auto-detecting what you want to hear, and it's doing it based on beats per minute and a couple other different things. And so its algorithm is just dropping shit in that it's thinking you're going to want to hear.
Yeah.
I turn the auto DJ where it's inserting its own shit. I turn that all off because if
they
I'm
get it
listening
wrong
to a playlist,
so
often.
Yeah.
So often I'm recommended something. I'm like, I don't like this at all.
I had on my Spotify. I actually deleted it because it's fucking up. But it's a different thing. But I was listening to like the Metallica channel, and I found way too often it was recommending me Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit, and I'm like, how? And then see, this is the difference. And you as a tech guy, this is the difference between a fucking actual human being and a program looking at stuff, because
Yeah.
the program is looking at things that we don't, but it's looking at different things and has decided that Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park fit in with Metallica, and on some algorithm, some level, they're the same. But if you're a person, you know they're not the same.
No.
Like, I don't know any single person in the world that listens to Metallica as a fan would ever recommend Linkin Park or Limp Bizkit to somebody else. Be like, hey, if you like Metallica, you should listen to Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, I could see a song or two.
No, I could see somebody that likes all three of those bands, but to recommend one based off of the other,
Yeah, no.
you're not. It's
Even
not,
a Limp Bizkit fan isn't being like, you know what, you should check it. You should check out Metallica. I could see Limp Bizkit recommending
Are Limp
Linkin
Bizkit fans
Park.
still around? Is that a thing?
I
Still?
think there's 3 of them.
Fuck, man, what a shit.
Well, they're
band.
back out on tour now with Corey Feldman, so that's a great thing to see.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm more of a fan of songs than I am specifically of groups. There are some groups that I'm a fan of, but I'm definitely more of a fan of certain songs, and there are plenty of one-hit wonders. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be, chasing them down and going to concerts or anything else, but I'll still like that song.
Yeah.
And Limp Bizkit is that for me. I think there's like maybe 2 or 3 songs that I like.
Yeah, and
I don't mind break stuff, and their version of Faith I kind of like, but other than that, as a whole,
that
they're
whole
kinda
new
shitty.
metal scene.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, when it came out, I liked it for a little while, for like a year or two, and then afterward, I was just like, what am I doing listening to this? It came and went so fast that I was like, I don't need. And now when I listen to Korn or Limp Bizkit and shit, I'm like, how did I ever like this shit? It's all fucking.
I think because it was new and different at the time. But
That's
then
what
it
it
got
was.
So saturated.
Yeah, it was new and different.
It was like
Korn's remix of the Cameo song was probably my favorite Korn
the
song.
Word Up.
Word Up.
That's a fucking
Yeah.
good song.
That's-
Freak on a Leash is pretty good, even though I have no idea what the fuck he's saying. But I mean,
Nobody knows what he's saying.
yeah.
But it's if you were that particular age group, like my wife Leah, she's definitely that age group, and she would have had the big Jenko jeans and crap like that.
Yeah.
She would have been in the teen
That
years.
2000s, early 2000s, I think, wasn't that when new metal
She
kind
have
of?
been 17 come 2K, right?
Yeah, about 2000s. Yeah, and there was like 2 or 3 bands that came out of that whole era that were pretty good, and then there was also some bands that they get kind of blended in with that scene, which kind of annoys me. Like when people tell me Sepultura is new metal because they put out that Roots album, it's like no, you got to go way further. Like that's the one of all the examples that drives me nuts is a Sepultura. It's like don't fuck.
But just listen to it. It's so different than new metal.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if they came
I mean
out at
that
the
album,
same
that
time,
particular album, they had a couple around that era where they
think
were trying to get in
they
with
were
the
trying
new
to get
metal
it on,
crowd.
like, American radio.
Yeah, and it's like,
But
what are you guys doing? Like,
no.
you guys can't make the classic shit you've been making all these years and then switch to this. I'm glad they got out of that, but it was.
Well, when Max left and started like Soulfly and then Cavalera afterwards too, and like
So
Yeah.
let's pull the fishing rod back so we can get back into the right mix here. So on the new metal side, what covers were there? Did that work out for anybody? Like Korn had.
I don't think I could name a single fucking new metal cover off the top of my head.
I look at Korn, and again, as I go back to when I first said that I'm more in line with logos as opposed to the actual cover pictures for a lot.
Yeah.
I liked Korn's logo.
Their
It
logo
was
was
interesting to me.
It was a good logo, and it fit well
Fit with
with
them.
what they were doing. Like,
Yeah, kind of like.
See,
Guar
they go
kinda
both
fits.
ways for me on that because I thought the Korn logo was stupid, and it was like
Really?
you spelt it with a K, and it was like you're trying too hard. So
And
for me,
backwards R and stuff.
I already didn't like them just because of that before I even listened to music. I was like, you're fucking trying too hard. It's spelt weird. The little jagged, like, fuck you guys. And it was just like, and at that age, I was hard fucking line on dumb shit. Like
and Adam wasn't anything like judgmental whatsoever or stubborn.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
wait a minute, I'm both those things.
Adam will look at a cover and know whether he likes it in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
Just
and
based
he'll-
off one little thing's like, I hate this.
Sometimes,
Why?
yeah.
the
Well,
funniest
the
part
ring on the
is-
finger of that guy, the 6th guy back in the cover there, looks kind of weird, like some shit like
you know,
that.
so I've hated bands just because of names and stuff. Like Limp Bizkit, when they came out, I was like, "That's a stupid fucking name. I'm never gonna like these guys."
You're not wrong there.
And then they named some album after like a fucking butthole and a coffee
Chocolate
or wiener
Starfish.
water or something. And I was like, "Fuck these guys." I was like, "Nope." And you know, in my defense, I'm not wrong because it's pretty shitty.
It was pretty shitty.
So like, there's some truth to my judgmentalism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do I try?
That cover, that Sepultura cover for the album I'm talking about, great cover.
That's where you need subtitles for me.
You know, like with the whole tribal thing and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That album cover was awesome. Like the album itself had a couple of good songs, but it was kind of meh.
Well, I think,
But-
you know, when music was first becoming commercialized, you had a lot of bands that were putting out things like, you know, like you look at the Hollies and stuff like that, and you know, Everly Brothers and so on, and Elvis, and it's generally just pictures of the artist.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And the name of the album,
Yeah.
playing with fonts wasn't much of a thing because I mean we're talking technology, like print technology, it just wasn't that great.
Yeah.
You know, and design technology wasn't that great. It was in its infancy.
But I think
So-
at that time too, musically, they were all the same. Like you could insert any one of those people in together, so it was. They didn't have to try as hard
but
to
throw
stand
throw
out because
Motown
they
in
were
there.
all
Motown's not the same as Elvis or.
Well, no, but it was
Brothers.
also. But you knew if you saw a white guy on the cover, you knew what kind of music you were getting. If you saw a group of black people on the cover, you knew what kind of music you were getting. So that was their difference, even though it was the same thing. That you look at an album with Lionel Richie on the cover, and you look at an album with Carl Perkins on the cover, you can tell which one has bass. Like it's
fair, but you know, when we go back to the infancy of commercialized music, right? I mean, it's music is music, but commercialization of music was a different thing, and album sales and all the rest of that stuff. I mean, there was a period of time where people could hear music on the radio, and then you got little 45s and and 33 LPs and everything else, and going up through 8 tracks and all the way through. But the evolution of the cover kind of went with the evolution of music itself.
Yeah, and the different
like
styles.
The 60s into the 70s was kind of like the start of having really inventive covers.
Yeah. Like psychedelic rock stuff was great for album covers, like those old Santana album covers. Like, yeah.
But you said something in that like earlier when we were talking about there's less people buying like an album now, and it's more just like songs here and there, like Spotify, all the streamers that allow that to do. But then you just mentioned 45s, which were in like the 50s, which are single songs, which is how we consume music today.
Yeah, with a B-side though.
So you always got the
B-side
song,
on it, but you always got the song that you weren't necessarily expecting, right?
Exactly.
And I loved a lot of the B-side
but they were like, here's the one song.
Yeah.
And a lot of people had a lot of 45s in their collection of just, mainly the one hit song and then your B-side on the other. Yeah. But like, and I'm with you too. I found a lot of cool songs around the B-sides.
Oh, those B-sides always had some gold.
I remember buying Nothing Else Matters, the single on a cassette.
Yeah.
And the flip side to that was Stone Cold Crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was like, holy fuck. And then reading it and going like, Mercury, wait a minute. Like Queen did this? And then Metallica's version turned me on to Queen's version. Yeah. I didn't know it was a Queen song. Yeah. It's just I heard Metallica's version first.
Speaking of Queen, any good albums on that, like for covers?
I looked into theirs
because I can't think of any, which means to me it must be like me.
Not overly. Right? They were very much.
I mean, you got the everybody standing with the flashlight up.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that was.
I thought Queen 2 I like that album cover. The album itself was not that great.
Their greatest hits albums were the best because it was like they had the cool logo and all that stuff on there. Yeah. But I looked into them and I didn't find anything on there that stood out, good or bad.
Yeah,
they were just like very run of the mill. They were the late 70s, early 80s.
I would have to look. I would have to look at the album covers online or something because right now there's not one that pops up to me.
To me,
Flash Gordon was kind of cool because it had the flash on it. But
yeah.
To me, it's kind of
cheesy.
To me, it's a little bit kind of like, and I'm probably gonna catch shit on this one, but it's like Aerosmith. I loved the Aerosmith logo. I could literally freehand draw the Aerosmith logo. I did that one so many times because it was so awesome. But when it came to the actual meat and potatoes underneath the logo itself, until you get to something like Pump with the 2 trucks going at it, they're all pretty meh. I mean, there's nothing really crazy. And I mean, Queen kind of strikes me the same way. Like they neither one of them got terribly crazy. Aerosmith is always very much, you get that same logo and they're different. Like you can recognize them.
Yeah.
But like contrasting Aerosmith with like AC/DC. AC/DC also had the same logo, but all the covers were so different, and I loved the AC/DC logos.
Well,
I
and they were
remember-
all very similar with just usually some form of
The
Angus
group.
Young doing something crazy and then
the
putting
group,
a fucking
but-
logo on it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
The Power Age cover will always be one of my favorite
That's a cool
covers
one.
ever.
And
I like Who Made Who.
And-
Who was a great
Yeah.
And it was
cover,
the first time my first vinyl that I ever owned was Power Age.
which is the one with Angus with the devil horns and the tail.
That's Highway to Hell.
That's Highway to Hell,
right?
yeah.
That's
that,
a
that
cool
was
one.
an epic one as
Power
well.
Age, he's got the wires coming out.
Isn't he
and
like
he's
plugged
getting
in and
shocked.
he's
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
electrocuted? Yeah.
That one and High Voltage were the first two records I ever owned.
Okay.
And I got them because of the covers. I hadn't heard AC/DC before that. And I was like, I remember because I was at my uncle's house when I was a kid, and he let me go through his crate of records. And he was like, yeah, take what you want. And I was like, okay, cool. So I was looking.
I would have just grabbed the whole crate.
He had some shit in there, though. He had
Yeah, well.
some that were bad. But I was like, I just picked out the ones that had the covers that got my attention most, right? Because I didn't really know those bands very well. And I was like, I'll try. It was those two albums and No Mean City by Nazareth.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Those three. And I was like, oh, I'll take these. And then I heard them and I was like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
and then I called them up and I was like, can I come back next weekend? I want to look what else is in there because I may admit, because these are really good. I don't know if I left anything behind. He's like, yeah. I didn't find anything else. But those three,
Yeah.
it's like, holy fuck. Yeah. Those
As
three
soon as
based
you
on the
said
cover.
Nazareth, I loved a lot of Nazareth music, but the
Yeah,
album
they're
covers don't
underrated.
generally come to mind for me. But when you said it, I went to the era of music and Boston.
Boston is on my list here of
Did you guys-
consistency.
Yeah.
They consistently, every album has a cool fucking cover to it.
You know what? You guys already probably know this, but I just found out this week, which I kind of feel stupid. But did you know the spaceship is actually a guitar upside down? I did not know this.
Me neither. Really?
I've never looked at it until I read it. Like, fun facts, Boston. I was like, what? And I went and looked at the cover. I was like, holy shit. How have I never picked up on that before? I just always saw it as a spaceship
Me
and
neither.
never, like... Yeah,
I
I'm
can't
sure you
tell if
have
you're
because
just
you know
bullshitting.
everything
You're
about music.
bullshitting,
But
okay.
yeah, but
I couldn't
to
tell
me,
if you were or not.
yeah,
That's funny.
to me, I never knew till like this week. I was
Yeah.
like, holy shit. It's like, yeah.
That's kind of like saying that you've looked at Master of Puppets and never seen the hands.
I guess either that or I'm just stupid. One of the two, but like I just saw it as a spaceship. I never
But you're not
really
stupid
looked at it
either,
like
because but you're also not a guitar guy,
no. I
right?
don't
So
play
you're.
guitar.
I think
The cover
I
reminds me of
instantly
guitar.
saw a guitar.
Yeah,
The
not
very,
me.
Very first time I saw it, I instantly saw a guitar. But I also I'm a guitar guy, and I love how guitars look. And I had my
Yeah.
wall when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It would be like 2 guitars,
Yeah,
hot chicken and bikini.
Yeah.
2 more guitars, hot chicken and bikini,
Yeah,
cool
yeah.
car.
yeah.
2 more
probably-
guitars. Like it was, I had more guitars on my wall than anything else. And if I could get like a hot chick and a bikini on a car with a guitar, holy fuck, that one was like dead center of the wall.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
so-
never noticed that until I read. I was like,
Isn't it cool finding out shit like that?
yeah. But then when you look at it, it's like, yeah, it is a guitar. How did that not click before? Like it's upside down, but it was.
Because you're not a guitar guy.
I guess so.
Right? So if I showed you pictures
I'm
of
not
guitars,
a-
would you tell me what brand they are?
I mean, I'm not a puppeteer either, but I saw the strings on the Metallica album.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Or maybe they just did a really good job of blending that. Like,
They did do a good job
did,
of mixing
yeah.
it in there.
yeah.
So we discussed it. Iron Maiden having having basically a mascot,
Yeah.
right, and like Megadeth and so on. A few bands have mascots, but Iron Maiden and Megadeth on the metal side of things are the two standouts for mascots for me. I've got. Can you grab me one as well? I've got a few favorites on the Iron Maiden side that I singled out, and I think Number of the Beast kind of speaks for itself. Summer in Time is a fantastic album as well. I quite enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
What's
Peace
the
of
one
Mind.
with What's the one with the
I almost find
The Egyptian
Number of the
theme.
Beast slightly different from all the rest of them. It has like this weird cartoony-ish look to it
yeah
that isn't quite as realistic as all the other ones. And I think if it was drawn this, I don't know if they have a different artist for that album than the other ones, but if it was drawn the same way as like Somewhere in Time, I think it would have been so much cooler. But it just I always felt that one felt a little flat because it just, the way it was drawn was like this amateur cartoon type feel to it. I don't know, it just seemed weird to me.
Yeah, I never really took it that particular way.
Yeah, me neither.
Like the devil was there. Eddie didn't really look any amount different than anything else.
And I think it was like the devil that's in the cartoony-ish part that it just pulls it away from me. It's not as realistic and everything as all like most of the other albums were.
This might sound really strange, but the devil's got eyes, whereas Eddie never does. Eddie's got eye sockets. So it might just be the fact that there's an eye there. Like it makes it look cartoony because of the eyes.
And I do enjoy how Eddie's always different.
Yeah.
On it, like it fits the album and it changes. And like Eddie's been small and he's been huge and like there's
same with on stage.
All these different things. Like on stage and concerts, even the shirts that they make, with Eddie and like moving into city specific shirts where if you don't buy that shirt at that concert, you don't get it. There's no after sale. It doesn't go on a website. It doesn't. There's no way of getting it. They get destroyed. Whatever doesn't get sold gets destroyed. Like it's, and that's like.
I think the biggest Eddie of them all though is Ed Force One.
Well, yeah.
I fucking love a band with their own 747. Was it a 747?
747. It's a giant fucking plane.
It was the one with the double decker. Was that?
Yeah.
No, was that a jumbo 767? I don't even know.
I don't know.
Fuck. But I mean,
and Bruce flies the fucking thing.
That's the best thing.
There's only 4 other guys in the band. What the hell do you need that plane for? Like,
because you can.
Because you can. Yeah, make a statement.
Do you need a better reason at that point in time?
No.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, I'm guessing in today's day and age, their carbon footprint would not be the best.
Yeah,
it might be frowned upon.
But they might fly their whole crew.
Well, they probably do.
Yeah.
I think that's what the double decker was. So the band would be up in the top, and then the band and maybe all their equipment and everything else would be in the belly. And I mean, I think in some of those ones you can actually like drop a deck and drive stuff up into them. I'm not dead sure on that one.
Could be.
Yeah, but I mean, at the very least, think about the cargo and everything else. Like you could easily fly your entire everything.
Yeah.
Well, and Eddie's pretty tall, so he would need
lots of room.
Quite a few. Yeah, he's booking more than one seat.
That's true. So do you think Megadeth might have had a little bit of copy kind of thing going on with the Iron Maiden mascot aspect?
Probably.
Because Vic Rattleheads, Rattlebones, Vic, we'll just call him Vic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty reminiscent.
In a
lot of ways.
Very, very similar.
Yeah.
I always thought that when I was younger too. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I was never a real huge Megadeth fan either, was because I thought they were stealing from Iron Maiden when I was younger. I just looked at it and I was like, the fuck, like you have Eddie. This looks cheaper, so now I'm just like, I just don't want to listen to you. And then I saw an interview with Dave Mustaine on like the Power Hour or something. I was like, this guy's a fucking douche. So I'm just like, well, obviously I can't listen to your music. And I mean, now I do listen to it because some of it's pretty good. Dave's still a douche, but it's like,
the world's oldest teenager.
Oh fuck yeah. It's pretty rough listening to him talk.
The stage
sometimes.
presence is kind of funny because it's like the same show that hasn't evolved since like 1987.
Yeah. I still do love those old Megadeth albums though.
Yeah, I mean, like when we saw Megadeth 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, a little longer than that. Like
12, 13 years ago.
Oh,
showed
Jesus,
up on
has
my,
been that long ago now.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're talking Dave's easily into his 50s, if not even pushing his 60s, and still talking about the PMRC and getting you down, and your mom,
and your mom
keeping you
yelling
down and
at
everything
you
else.
for listening to loud music.
We might want to evolve that stage speech a little bit because your crowd is also in their 50s now, dude.
Yeah. Hurry up because your fans got to get home to their kids.
And the PMRC hasn't been around in a few years.
Well, not only that, but like the kids at his show are there with their parents who are fans. So they're definitely not yelling at their kids to turn it down.
Yeah.
If your parent's a metalhead, they're not yelling at you to turn it down.
They're yelling at you to turn it up.
My kids are yelling at me to turn it down.
Yeah.
But I can't really blame them because I probably have lost a good portion of my hearing. so now they're like, don't make me lose mine.
I did
So,
love.
I don't always listen to metal, but when I do, so do my neighbors.
Yeah,
That's true.
the Countdown to Extinction album cover.
That's a good one.
That was one I really liked too. Yeah.
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 I can't do extinction. Rust in Peace is also pretty
Really
too.
good. They were their music and their album covers. I think were all really good up until Euthanasia.
Yeah.
That was the last Megadeth album
That
I
was
really cared
that
about.
was one that
After that, I was like, I'm done with these guys. Like,
Yeah,
that
so
was-
far so good. So what? Killing is my business. I mean, they were good.
Yeah.
The albums were good. The music was good. The
Yeah.
covers were good. I wouldn't say they were anything like top 10 of anything on my list.
Yeah,
They're-
but
I mean, I am partial to the metal and the thrash.
yeah,
But I would probably say like there's some rock, heavy metal, like Judas Priest. I was asking about that
Yeah.
earlier. They have some pretty epic album covers. I
they
mean,
do. They do. Yeah.
The first time I heard Judas Priest was on a mixtape, but not so a retail mixtape, not like somebody was making me the mixtape to tell me how much they loved me, because the song that I got on that mixtape was "Ram It Down." That's not exactly like I got a crush on you, ram it down. Well, that's like nice messaging there.
yeah.
But like the Ram It Down album and British Steel and stuff like they've got some pretty cool album covers, and those were like 70s and
Painkiller.
80s.
That's a fucking
Yeah.
great album.
Sad
cover,
Wings
too.
of Destiny,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
up there for me.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's getting out of the thrash side. So thrash kind of in a way, almost everybody did like really good covers. Like they had good cover art and everything. I think that was kind of a bit of a hallmark of thrash.
When it's art,
Yeah.
they put some feeling into it. In my research for this, it was so easy to do metal, but it was
Yeah.
like, well, there's not just metal music.
But rock
And
was
there's albums.
challenging.
So I started
Yeah.
looking into other genres and getting into like, okay, let's go look at fucking country. And I went into Google, it was like best country album covers. And there wasn't really
country,
that many on
maybe
there.
the worst genre for
Yeah.
album covers.
And even in like rap and pop, like there isn't a whole lot of them that were any good. A few stand out that are off the top of my head. I think Eric Clapton's Slow Hand was a cool one just because of the guitar on there, and it's like, and it fits because Clapton's a guitar god, so to have that on there, that one fit in there. It's really weird, but Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA, even though it's like his butt,
Yeah.
but it just like that is a pretty iconic image, the American flag, and just you're like, this is just like a working guy, and that's what he is in the music, especially on that album is for. Fleetwood Mac, Rumors was a great cover on there, but there isn't too many albums over the years in other genres that I think they really put that much effort into something different, something new.
Yeah.
Trying to sell it just by using their album. A lot of them were like how you said in like the early days, it was just pictures of them, especially a lot of rappers. It was all just the rappers doing some weird little fucking pose on the ground with the camera shooting up. Like they all were very similar to it.
Well, it's almost like the genre got a theme, and you stuck with the theme. And
Yeah.
the theme for thrash was artistically creative and representative albums when it came to the covers. As soon as you said Fleetwood Mac Rumors and the simplicity and the basic one, I mean, that's basically just their silhouettes standing there, right?
Yeah.
And another one, just as soon as you said that, just jumped straight into my mind was Brothers in Arms.
Yeah.
That guitar on the front
That's
cover of
right.
Brothers in Arms is
Did you know
so
like it's
representative.
actually a spaceship upside down?
Shit, I never even thought about that.
It could be. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look.
Rob's like, I don't know if I know that album.
Yeah.
But that one was probably one of the more representative of that album as well, because I mean you can't how else do you represent Mark Knopfler, right? I mean
Yeah, the dude's fucking amazing. Very underrated as a guitar player. But,
not in my books.
No,
Yeah.
but unfortunately in the whole grand scheme of things it is. But yeah, I found it hard to find album covers outside of the metal and rock genre that really stood out as amazing.
For me, like funk had a lot of really good ones, like Parliament Funkadelic, like George Clinton with the spaceship art and all that stuff.
And that again, like Colin mentioned, they sort of had a theme too.
Yeah.
Like their style of music had
Yeah.
that. Like the rap And granted, most of the ones I looked at were like kind of 90s and up. All of just like the single rapper and that one look, like it's like they all just decided like, hey, we're all gonna do this album. You know, we're gonna crouch down in front of a car with fucking 24s and gold rims.
Yeah, but a lot of those album
like,
covers had things that a lot of like hidden messages in the back that if you weren't a diehard follower, you might miss out on.
Sometimes,
right?
Some of the bands, yeah.
Right. For example, here's an example like Kool Moe Dee. I don't know how familiar you are with his album covers.
I know who he is.
Yeah, but he had an album cover. He was just posing in front of a Jeep, right, with a Jeep parked behind him. And
it's like Adam said.
Yeah,
somebody posing in front of a vehicle with 24s. I mean, you're not changing that theme.
Yeah, that's what it is. But at that time, with what was going on with Kool Moe Dee, if you look at the Jeep, there was a Kango hat underneath the front tire because he was beefing with LL Cool J at the time.
Oh, okay.
So, like little things like that. That if you're not looking, but yeah, it's.
Yeah, I don't know if the beef between LL Cool J and Kool Moe Dee ever really crossed my radar.
No, but like little things like that.
I couldn't give a shit who won that one.
Nope.
No, but like I'm just things like that you're not.
Yeah, well, and that's true. And like, you got to be in that style of music to get those. And
a lot of
I think now knowing that though, that is a cool thing to know.
And that was a lot of the early rap stuff was them posing and stuff. I think as it grows and stuff. Like
they still do it today. It's,
not nearly as much.
It's just him being a douche.
Yeah, but who cares about Drake?
That's true.
Yeah,
Drake is the Coldplay of music.
Yeah. So, what are your guys' thoughts on like Dark Side of the Moon?
Love it.
Like cover wise, the album was fantastic. Album cover was very simplistic, but very unique.
Yeah, simplistic is good sometimes.
Because that's one that always jumps out at me as a really cool cover.
Yeah.
But doesn't really represent Dark Side of the Moon.
It doesn't because it's Prism and
So
whereas you look at like Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Yeah, it's The Wall.
It fucking represents The Wall pretty damn good.
So it's like it's a really iconic cover. It's a fantastic photo, but was it just a stock photo that they picked?
Actually, it was.
So was it?
Yeah.
I mean,
but it fucking worked.
But I mean, one of the coolest, most basic covers around.
Yeah, and you see that logo, you're always gonna think Pink Floyd, like, or when you think Dark Side of the Moon, the album, you think of that logo immediately. So it did its job.
Yeah, and so that again goes back
how
into
many
the
joints have been
70s?
rolled on that.
That 70s or is that 60s?
That's late 70s.
Late 70s.
Yeah.
So that's again where we're getting into the artistic side of things.
Yeah.
And it's still developing, right? So it makes sense that it's a stock photo as opposed to like curated art or something that.
Well, and you said earlier too on having a mixtape and like going through my mom's records when I was younger, and a lot of like the K-Tel albums and stuff, and like Big Shiny, even Arch CDs like Big Shiny Tunes and stuff. Well, maybe not so much with them. I'm gonna go back to my mom's K-Tel records. Yeah. How they always had like the bright bursts and stuff, and it was a lot of more poppy type music, but it was like the albums were very bright. They were very colorful. They had little round pictures of the bands on there, and sometimes they'd even just throw like Batman fucking throw words on like bam and pow and shit to anything to catch your eye, and be like, hey, look at this one, come grab this one, and not some of the other ones. And it's easy to find those when it's mixed in with a whole bunch of faces. And then you have all like, here's this artist, here's this artist, here's this artist. And then like, boom, here's this colorful fucking explosion. Your eye's going to be drawn to that one. And you're going to go past all the other simple ones. Like my record collection is full of those. I have tons of them where it's just fucking heads. Like, I flip right through them most of the time. It just they don't
unless it's the Kiss
don't matter. Yeah, but even with that, different because now you have the makeup. You have something different than just a face to it. And I'm thinking too again with my mom's records, like a lot of the country stuff, or like Linda Ronstadt, and Tammy Wynette. Like it just a picture of the person's face on there, and it was like,
yeah.
Whatever.
Speaking of Kiss. we kind of delved a little bit into them. Creatures of the Night was probably one of my favorite covers.
That
Oh,
is
that's
a
a
good
good
one.
one.
Welcome again, four faces, but the glowing eyes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good one too. Yeah.
Yeah, they were very consistent through all the things.
I think they were
you
very
know,
similar
Love
to
Gun.
AC/DC in that.
And I thought Dress to Kill was awesome too, because their stage presence, they had all these cool costumes and everything.
Yeah.
But then in that album, they're dressed in suits. They still
What's-
have the face paint, but they're wearing suits.
What's the 80s one with Crazy Nights?
Crazy Nights?
Crazy Nights.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was kind of a
It was a
could've-
little.
they could've
The
avoided that one.
Animalize was just a cheetah print
yeah.
on it, but it was also
Love
in
Gun
the
was
80s.
pretty
It
good.
fit in with that. What's that?
Love Gun.
Love Gun
pretty
was
good. I
great.
like that one.
Yeah.
That might be my favorite one. Well, to me, it's my favorite Kiss album.
Hotter Than Hell was
Like,
really cool too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Rock and Roll Over was good. Like, yeah.
Yeah, they had a good run where their album covers were
Yeah.
pretty cool.
You know, it's
And
really-
they're in my list here that I've written down as far as like consistency goes,
Yeah.
like across the board. Like
yeah.
they're very consistent in having cool albums. Another band that I have written on there, you mentioned them earlier, ZZ Top, you know, the car, but they also had the Spaceship too, right? So like they have that. Boston, as you mentioned, is on my list of consistency too. Twisted Sister, always had cool because they were smart with their logo, like the Bones
Yep.
thing and stuff, and they kept that going on. And then a band that doesn't get a lot of talk about them is Jackal.
Ooh.
Their album covers were always cool. They had that cartoony type Jackal with the chainsaw, and that
Just-
was like their gimmick to
You
it.
just took me back to Power 30.
Yeah,
It just went.
fucking Jackal's
That
awesome.
was where I remember seeing. Yeah.
Anybody listening to this, just
So-
fucking listen to some Jackal.
So
Jackal,
you were
fuck it.
talking earlier about how to get things into your ear hole. So that brings up, Video Killed the Radio Star. Everything, MTV and Much Music, and how that got in. And I mean, that was all mid '80s. So I mean, we're talking like you guys were very young mid '80s. Like I was turning 10
was
mid
10.
'80s. I was turning 10 mid '80s.
Well, I was 10 in 87. Sorry.
Yeah, and I turned 10 in '84. So.
Yeah, but we can't all be as old as fuck. So
No, that's true. That's true. But
I'm surprised you remember that.
the thing that I remember more was
Careful, Rob.
metal
Gramps is talking.
magazines. I remember metal magazines.
Yes.
And then pulling posters
Fuck
out.
yeah.
I used
And
Two
to.
of my
that was-
walls were Rip,
Right.
Metal Edge,
Yeah. And
Cream
so,
when it was cool.
but that was how I got a lot of the ingestion from a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to go into one that actually, it's kind of a funny bit. You were talking about Black Sabbath and their original album and everything else. Across the board, I wasn't a fan of any of their album art. Like I didn't really care for any of it.
There's a bunch of bad ones.
Oh, there's lots of bad ones. Yeah.
I'm on here actually. Sorry to interrupt for just real quickly, but the great album, shit cover, Black Sabbath, Paranoid.
Yeah.
That is a fucking amazing album. And
Yeah,
a shit
I mean, I
cover.
didn't think it was terrible, but it was nothing great
That's
either.
a horrible cover with the fucking static, weird
Oh yeah.
neon guy or whatever thing.
Yeah.
Like it was just like, huh?
Yeah.
The fuck is
Yeah.
this?
So,
Yeah,
but,
that's
but we
fair.
go from like you loved the first one. To me, it was like, I totally agree with you that I just didn't really care for it. And that fantastic album and the cover's like, I wouldn't have bought it because if I had to justify the purchase of the album based on the cover, I'd never buy it.
the first Sabbath one you're talking about? Or-
Especially Paranoid, right?
Paranoid, yeah,
which
yeah.
is such a fantastic album, but
Yeah.
I would not buy it based on the cover. If I was to have to buy something based on the cover, I would walk by that one.
Yeah.
But then I go to Ozzy Osbourne after Black Sabbath.
Oh, yeah.
Every fucking album, amazing covers.
Speak of the Devil,
But,
also the Ultimate Sin.
but while we're
where
on
he's
s-
like that fucking demon thing. That
Well-
had a hot chick.
While we're on Sabbath though, do you guys agree that their album covers got better with Dio than they were when Ozzy was in there?
I don't know that
Because
I could
the Mob
actually-
Rules album cover was awesome.
I don't know that.
Yeah.
I
As
could
an
separate them.
example,
Yeah,
Hell or Heaven or Hell,
but Heaven and Hell wasn't Black Sabbath. That was Heaven and Hell.
Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell.
Well, they even changed their name.
But
The band name was Heaven and Hell as well during that time.
right, but
because they were in an
but
argument.
right, yeah, but the
So it's
Sabbath
not a
album
Sabbath
was
album.
okay, but it's Sabbath, Heaven or Hell.
Yes,
But
that
that
one
was
was
a pretty
cool.
good one too.
but then
That
what
is-
about when Ian Gillan joined and they did Black Sabbath Born Again?
Oh.
That album is, oof. That's pretty rough.
Let's call that one Van Halen.
Okay,
3.
here's a question for
We'll
you:
just forget
which
about
is
it.
worse, the album cover or the album?
The album.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it takes a lot to beat that album cover as bad. But
That
the
album
album,
cover
they yeah.
And not only that, but Ian Gillan is fucking an amazing vocalist. And Tony Iommi is it's
Yeah.
everybody's so good. It's like, how did you guys collectively get together to create such a pile of shit? Wow.
So 2 albums, as we're pushing towards the hour here, 2 albums that I think have kind of almost they're eerily similar theme, but very different albums, but both equally iconic albums are 1984 and Nevermind, with
The Babies.
Smoking Baby
The
on
Babies,
the front for
yeah,
one,
yeah.
and Swimming Naked Baby,
Yeah.
who's sued the shit out of Nirvana to try and get compensation for his naked baby picture. Even though his mom
loser.
But he
signed off
should
on
have
it.
sued his parents, not the band.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
What do you do,
Your
right?
parents made the shitty decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. No
Should
kidding.
have gone for
I had
royalties.
1984 actually it's on a different piece of paper, but as
Yeah.
one of the ones where I love that album cover. I think is awesome. It's in my top
Yeah.
thing, and it's also a really cool album.
Very cool album.
Yeah.
See, the Van Halen album covers, none of them ever did anything for me. I
Not
just
even
thought it was-
1984.
No.
Not even the Smoking Baby
Nope.
Angel.
If I was
The Smoking
like,
Cherub.
if I was like, I would have never bought one of their albums based on the album cover, if I didn't know who they were, like ever. Yeah, I mean, not to say that they were terrible, but there was nothing about them that jumped out at me.
None of the other ones were good, but 1984 is that's a
1984 is probably the
fucking good
best
album.
one as far as album covers
It
for
definitely is, yeah.
Yeah.
them.
And Van Halen 3 was just weird.
Yeah.
This circus guy getting hit with a cannonball, and they just put Van Halen 3 on the cannon. It was like,
There's a lot of
they tried harder on the album cover
Interesting
than they
things.
did on the album.
yeah. So okay, how about recent? I mean, you look at Metallica. Let's look at 72 Seasons. I mean, if you look at that one, contrast it to their earlier stuff. Was it more adventurous earlier on? Was it? I mean, because it's pretty basic.
Yeah, I didn't really care for the album cover for 72 Seasons.
Yeah.
No, same thing
Yeah.
with Hardwired. I thought Hardwired and 72 Season are very similar
Yeah, I
album
agree.
covers.
Yeah.
They didn't try that hard, and it doesn't really like the first ones. These ones don't evoke too much about the album itself,
Yeah.
Yeah.
whereas the first ones did.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Puppets, and Justice for All, you kind of had a good idea what you're getting when you listen to it. Even the Black Album, to some extent, you kind of know, but it just didn't.
And I guess if you weren't too familiar with their music, you would lean more on the album cover to guide you, but like, this is good. But now
again,
it's like
you
you're
don't
already,
need,
you're like,
you don't
yeah, yeah.
need the
just-
album cover.
No.
So-
You're already a fan. You're like, just give me the music. I don't care what the fucking.
And they
album
don't
cover
try on
is.
their album covers because you're wearing it on your chest. Like they're merch.
Yeah.
That's where you put the cool shit. That would make an
Yeah.
awesome album cover.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Eh?
well.
And I have all of them on here.
Well, not all.
Well, not all of them, but
All that you care about.
enough
Yeah.
of them.
Most of the ones you care about, anyways.
That
Except
Load
Load is
album.
on here.
That Load album cover sucked too.
Yeah.
That
Well, so
was
did the
just-
album.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know, it's weird. Going back to rap and one of the albums, it's like some of the covers on there, and I've been listening to them a lot lately. I don't know why. A song popped up, and I laughed and I loved it, and now I've been listening to them nonstop. It's fucking ICP, Insane
Really?
Clown Posse. Hocus Pocus is a fuck. I love that song, man. That song makes me laugh, and I love it. And I'm listening to like a bunch of their shit, and it's kind of like, why didn't I do this earlier? But
Because they're terrible.
they are. But it's like there's something about it. It's just this weird little earworm in my brain, and I'm sure I'm gonna grow out of this pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I'll probably get to one point where it'll be like, all right, that's enough. Like, but I'm not there yet. But I'm gonna hear one song that's just gonna be like, okay, this is too bad, and then
Yeah.
I'll be done.
I fucking
But
hate.
Hocus Pocus is a good song.
I fucking
that song
hate
makes me laugh.
clowns with a fucking passion. So right
yeah.
off the bat, ICP is a no go for me. Like just if your whole gimmick is a clown, I can't take you seriously.
Yeah.
But their
I-
album
I-
covers
I-
are kind of cartoony.
Way
and
back when I was
funny.
younger, I was dating a girl, and up comes Halloween, and she dressed like a clown. I had literally broke up with her that night.
Oh
I
yeah,
couldn't do it. I
What
just
kind
literally
of
couldn't do it.
kind of living is that? A clown.
Oh,
And how creepy is that?
Oh yeah.
Like
And
clowns are creepy as fuck.
as
They
a
are.
movie, it made over $1 billion for Joker, but
Yeah.
then the
Yeah.
part twos kind of sucked. So
I could see like clowns in like the horror genre being kind of cool if you're, but a clown at like a kid's birthday party.
Yeah, but Anthrax put a clown on one of their albums.
Yeah.
Right? AC/DC put a clown, or not AC/DC, sorry, Kiss put a clown on one of their albums. So,
Yeah, that's
mind you, it is called Psycho Circus. It makes sense.
Putting a
but
clown on an album cover and dressing up as a clown.
Yeah.
That's
Somebody had to dress up to get on that cover.
I guess so. Yeah, that's true.
At the end of the day, did we cover enough covers?
Yeah, I think we did good.
Yeah, there's always so many.
I knew it was gonna go rock heavy metal, like heavy, because I mean those really are the best album covers. So
yeah.
Well, and if we're talking about the albums, and if we went into a store and we were looking for something that was gonna hook us, we generally went to the rock section and then started looking through stuff. We
they got to look for that Lee Aaron
to the
album.
pop and easy listening.
Lee Aaron had some good album covers.
Ooh,
They make good
the,
posters too.
Yeah,
The Leather Pants album.
yeah.
Yeah,
Lee Aaron's one of the main reasons why I even listen to rock and stuff. Was seeing
Yeah.
a picture of her in a
Alana
fucking
Miles had a pretty good
leather
cover, too.
bra. I was like, whew.
That Metal Queen album
Yep.
cover, that's up there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good album too.
Yeah,
It
it
is.
was.
but
Do you know what we should do? That we should just let's just go to a record store and don't try not to buy like a band that we know the band or whatever, but like let's just go find a fucking album.
That we
Or
know
let's
nothing.
find an album for each other.
That we know nothing about.
Yeah.
Should do that, and then listen to it and have a do
is
an
this
episode where we
going to
talk.
be like book club, but it's going to be music club,
Fuck yeah, let's start a music club.
where we pick up an album and then have to like saturate ourselves in it for like a solid week? Because sometimes
Yeah.
the first play through something just doesn't do it.
No,
gotta
you have
listen
to,
it
yeah.
over and over and
Yeah.
over.
I'd be down to do that, and then have a show where we talk about
Yeah.
what
that'd
we
be
thought of the
awesome.
album. Wait, do we pick our own or do we pick each other's though?
So I will tell you guys about, because I just went to the concert last night and there was an opening band, and the opening band, their name is Jade Elephant, and I'm gonna pull up a picture on the computer here after we're done, but I took a couple pictures, and I shit you not, their sound was like straight out of the late 70s, like 70s rock.
Yeah.
Their image was like straight out of the 70s rock. Like they could have literally been Zeppelin Jr.
Who is this? What's the name?
They're Jade Elephant.
Jade
It's
Elephant.
a
I've never heard.
trio of dudes right out of Calgary. They're local guys, and they really opened the show. Like they really did well. Yeah, I was quite impressed with them.
I like hearing shit like that.
Yeah.
I think with the music club, we should do two things. Buy an album for yourself. And I think the only rule we should put on there is try our best not to already know who the artist is. Or definitely never have listened to that album.
Well, why don't we discuss this
And we buy
formulate
one
it?
for each other.
Let's discuss this and formulate it so that we can actually do it
Yeah.
properly
Okay.
without congesting the tail end of this particular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, but listen in. That could be what we're doing next.
Could
So,
be.
All right. On that
Again,
note,
now that we're done, yeah. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks for
tuning in.
bringing this up. And we'll see you next time.
till next time.
Till next time.